Happy Multichrome Monday. Today I'm going to be talking about an eyeshadow palette with some multichromes in it. It is from Nomad Cosmetics. It is their new palette, Royal Europe, and thank you so much to Nomad Cosmetics for sending me this palette. I'm so excited to see Nomad Cosmetics adding some multichromes into their palettes. I love this color story and I can't wait to dip into it. But first, let's get into some swatch comparisons and then I'll create 3 looks and I'll give you some of my thoughts at the end of the video. First, I'm going into Willeneuve Palace, and that's going to go into the inner third of my crease. I do wish this shadow was maybe just a little bit lighter, kind of like Palace of Versailles. And then right next to that, I'm going into Palace of Versailles. And then on the outer corner, I'm going into Buckingham Palace. And I'm using the Cinch Beauty EO5 brush so far, and then just gonna wipe off the brush and keep blending outwards. Picked up some setting powder and I'm just gonna go over the edge here. I'm gonna take a little bit more Buckingham Palace. There's quite a bit of kick up and I'm having some fallout. So definitely recommend probably doing your eyeshadow before your foundation. Using the What's Up Beauty 112 brush to connect my lower lash line. Look how tiny this tiny little brush is. It's so small. Oh, it's so cute. Putting on some Fairnay Pixie Epoxy almost all the way across my lid, and I like to just tap it out. And I'm picking up St. Edward's Crown, and I'm just gonna pop that onto kind of the center outer portion of my lid. And then on the inner portion, I'm gonna go in with Royal Orb. That is so sparkly and beautiful. Something I noticed from the swatches is that Imperial Crown and a Royal Orb don't seem to have black base. They're a little bit, they've got a little bit of a more translucent base. But definitely Bleu de France and St. Edward's Crown are pretty dark, and they do have that darker base to them. I'm just kind of merging them together. And here's the finished look. For the second look, I'm dipping into Sean Brun Palace. And it's going to go right onto the inner third of my lid. Super pigmented. I'm using the What's Up Beauty R108 brush. Just kind of working that in first. And I'm going to wipe off that brush, and I think I'm going to go in with Pinna Palace right next to that. Again, super pigmented. I would definitely tap off your brush. It's very easy to pick up too much. And then on the outer corner, I'm going to go in with Great Hall. Also curious to see this shadow next to Pinna Palace because I feel like they might look a little similar on the lid. The tones are different. The depth is just a tiny bit different. But really curious. So I'm just working it into my outer corner. And then I'm just going to wipe off my brush and go into... Picked up some setting powder just to help diffuse this, since there is no really transitional lighter mid-tone shadow I can use for that. I'm just going to go in with a little bit more. Just kind of packing it on first. And then wiping off my brush. And blending it out here. What's Up Beauty R107 brush. Just taking in and connecting my lower lash line. Looks like there's some leftover shadow on this, even though I whipped it off. So just ignore that there's some like yellow sparkles. And then taking the ballroom underneath the rest of my lower lash line. I feel like that one looks very similar to when I put down Great Hall. Actually, let me take a little bit more Great Hall and just put it right here. Going in with the Fahrenheit Pixie Epoxy again. Tapping it out. Picked up Imperial Crown on the Cinch Beauty E01 brush. And that's going to go right up against where I lay down that yellow. I'm going to do kind of like a messy half-cut crease situation. And then Royal Treasure is going to go right underneath that. Oh, that's so pretty. So pretty. And just blending it out here. No harsh edges. Significantly less fallout on this eye for sure. Here's the finished look. Always, the packaging is always on all Nomad palettes is absolutely beautiful. I love the detail. It could honestly be a display piece. I love this color story. This has got to be one of my favorite color stories from Nomad Cosmetics. I also love the way it's laid out. I love when things are organized in columns. I just think it makes it so much easier to use for really everyone. And as much as I love deepening up shades, I feel like this is all jewel tones, which makes complete and total sense. That being said, I do wish that this shadow was just a little bit lighter, more like this one, because these two look very, very similar. The formula to me seems maybe just a tad more powdery than what I've experienced with Nomad palettes, and I've tried quite a few. It's not really a big deal. I just need to make sure that I do the eye look before I do my base. All these shadows are super, super, super pigmented. You really just need the tiniest dip in the pan, and even then, definitely recommend tapping off any excess. If you love more colorful shadows, super pigmented shadows, then this palette is for you. If you like to kind of work slowly up and build upwards, then you might not have the greatest time with the palette. So now let's move on to the Multichromes. First and foremost, so excited to see Multichromes from Nomad. I love that they are in an eyeshadow palette as well, and I love that they have their own row, and then they kind of match the color schemes by the columns, and they applied absolutely beautifully over the Fahrenheit Pixie Epoxy. I do want to try these out with just spraying my brush and seeing how they apply that way. I feel like these two are not quite black based. They are a little bit sheer when you swatch them, so let me just show you kind of on my fingers here. I don't see any like grayish edges or anything like that. This one right here just has a little bit of a base, but I've definitely seen jeweled Multichromes with much more of a grayish blackish base. And then I would say this one is obviously the darkest. This one I can definitely see the black base, especially when you start to kind of blend it downwards. If you're an avid single eyeshadow collector, and especially with Multichromes, you will probably already have all of these shades in your collection. So I would definitely not be buying this palette just for these shadows. If you look into your collection and you can see some of these colors, or if you saw in the comparisons that you already have a lot of those shadows, it might not be really worth it for you to buy this palette just for the Multichromes. That being said, I think this palette is a great value for having these kinds of Multichromes in it. A lot of times with these black-based Multichromes, what happens is they swatch really, really beautiful, really shiny, and then once you put them on the lid, even with a tacky primer, they do dull out just a little bit, and I feel like these look really, really beautiful in the pan and on the lid. Like, that's really, really shiny. These are really nice jeweled Multichromes. I definitely give them a big thumbs up. If you don't have anything like these shadows and you love the color story, you love pigmented mattes, then this palette is definitely worth it for you. So let me know in the comments below if you picked this palette up and what you think of it. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.